Welcome to Beerstories from Beerstory Brewhouse. This is my grain to glass video with a modern American light lager, and that means it's pretty well dry hopped, and it's actually a challenge from the Danish craft brewery Bad Seed Brewing, and it's a copy of their Anvil American light lager. So it's a fun beer. It's a pretty hard beer to brew, correct anyway. So check out the grain to glass video here. So the reason why this beer is so hard to brew is because it's totally naked. It's, as you can see, it's very, very light. It's only 10 IBUs, and it's made of Heidelberg Pilsner malt, wheat, and flaked torrefied maize, which just gives it almost no flavor. So you have nothing to hide any mistakes in. It's totally naked. All you got is a pretty crazy dry hop in the end, but that's it. So it's probably one of the hardest beer I ever had to brew. And the first one here, I think I got 90% of the way. The recipe, I've changed it just a little bit to make it, to go the extra 10% to make it 100% copy of their beer, and also what I actually wanted from the beer. But as I said, it's an amazing summer beer. It's really light and refreshing, and I actually think all those people that say they don't like beer, they will probably like this one because it has a more white wine kind of feel to it than actually beer, because of the low bitterness and because of the lack of flavor. It actually reminds me of a white wine I once dry hopped. It's very similar to that. So it's a crazy fun beer. And I could drink this all summer. So hey Peter.
Hello.
Glad you had the time to talk about our little experiment here.
Yes.
So you challenged me to brew an American light lager that you just released. Can you tell me a little bit about the beer?
Yeah, so the beer is called Anvil. And this is how it looks in the can and in the glass. It's ultra pale light lager. And the reason why yours, it looks exactly the same actually.
Yeah.
So the reason why we brewed this beer is because we have a local welder who's helped us a lot at the brewery with stainless steel work. And he's kept nagging us about, just for fun, like, you guys need to brew a Coors Light clone instead of all this crap you do with all the fruity hops and whatnot. And then to surprise him and thank him, we brewed this beer. So it's an American light lager, but we couldn't just do an American light lager. We had to do something just also a little bit, so it's a bit more interesting. Because if we just put out American light lager, people would probably not buy it. So instead, we tried to layer it with Mosaic hops.
Yeah.
And we were talking about doing this challenge and having you try to brew a similar beer at home. And the reason why we chose this beer is also because it's a beer that's hard to do at a home scale because it's a lager and you're using a lot of adjuncts. Like this one uses both corn or flaked torrefied maize and wheat. So there's a good portion of adjunct in the grist, and then it's lager yeast and everything. So you want it to be clean. You need to know your process, and then it features the dry hopping and also kettle hops of Mosaic. So the only hop in the beer is Mosaic hops. And it's 4.4% alcohol. I think the big thing that differs from ours to yours is that we are able to use the 702 extract that is now called Dynaboost from Yakima, which is in here, which is in the kettle. That's where we get our bitterness. And then we'll dry hop it with cryo and regular pellets like you. And we have a rousing process to get the hops in suspension.
Yeah, exactly. because I had to just make a standard whirlpool, but I tried to hit your number of IBUs. It's only 10 IBUs, so it's a clean beer that almost tastes like nothing.
Like a light lager should.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And on the nose, I just get a little bit of citrus, a little bit of it's kind of a fruity, maybe a little bit of sulfury compounds, and then the taste is kind of like elderflower juice, or kind of a dry hopped a white wine once, and it kind of tastes a little bit like this: a little citrus and a little white wine, or something like that.
Yeah, I can see that. Like our beer has like a slight vinous wine quality to it, and but otherwise it's mainly citrus flavor dominated. But I do get a little bit of an almost like blueberry bubblegum or like a gummy candy type thing on ours. And then it's like very clean and very crisp, and super light and dry. Like it's a real summer beer, and it's like if you really want to drink more than one can when you have this, I think, because it's just so refreshing, and really, I think it's the most easy drinking beer we've ever made.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
I think
sure.
most people who don't even like the taste of beer would like this.
I was actually thinking that because, yeah, exactly because of that wine quality or elderflower juice quality. I bet, yeah, non-beer lovers would actually be able to drink this.
Yeah, I think so.
So I'm looking forward to taste your beer at the beer festival, Denmark's biggest beer festival, to compare. And I'm pretty sure, because there will be a difference. I think yours is more hoppy than mine. 2.5 days my hops were in there, the dry hop, and then I pulled it out. I pulled out the beer and caked it. And I wasn't able to rouse it. So I think I got less hoppy flavors than you got, but probably the same kind of base. So yeah, it's going to be fun to taste your beer.
Yeah,
it's going to be fun
to
to talk to people on the festival about the differences between a homebrew setup, because my homebrew setup is kind of advanced. So it's not what most people got at home, but still, I don't think I was able to copy your beer exactly. So it's going to be fun to talk to people about that as well, the differences.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that was it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to taste your beer at the festival.
Likewise.
Cool.
Cheers. It's cool.
Basically, it's an American light lager where everything is made as light as possible, and then dry hopped with a pretty hefty dry hop in the end. All Mosaic hops. The vitals, as you can see here, it's the recipe is for 25 liters or 6.5 gallons. ABV, I don't know why the ABV should be 4.4. I can't hit that. It's either 4.3 or 4.5. So it's just because it's such small numbers that makes a difference. Probably if I set it to 2.85 kilos, I would hit the number, but doesn't really matter in the end. So about 4.4, 4.5% ABV. Original gravity, 1040. Final gravity, 1006, so it's a dry beer. And that's also why it's so refreshing. And I think it's why it also works with that low ABV, because I wouldn't say it's balanced. You can also see down here on the bitterness to gravity unit, it's not in the middle, it's in the low range, and that means it's to the sweeter side and not to the bitter side. And it is a sweet beer, even though it has such a low final gravity, but that's because of the very low IBU of just 10 IBUs. And that's also what makes it almost white wine-like. And also the EBC is the same color as a white wine. EBC is only 4.3, or around 4. So it's just a very light beer in any way you can interpret that. Light on ABV, light on final gravity, light on color, light on bitterness. The bitterness to gravity unit is to the lighter side. So it's a light beer. The grain bill is just basically Heidelberg Pilsner malt, and it's really important that you use Heidelberg or something that light anyway. Heidelberg is only 2.5 EBC, so it's a very light and also flavorless. It's pretty light, so it doesn't really. This beer doesn't have a barley field flavor to it like many other pilsners have. So yeah, use a very light pilsner malt. 72%, then 15% flake torrefied maize. You get a small hint of that in the beer, kind of a cornflakes vibe. That's not DMS. DMS is something different. DMS is a smell where you open a can of maize and smell it right there. That's DMS. If you get a corn vibe from your beer, it's not DMS. Many people mistake those two. And then it's 12% wheat malts. So as you can see, it's really all about the light colors and the light flavors to make this as flavorless as possible. And then we're going for the hops. I only boiled it for 30 minutes. It's really important that you do that without a lid, because otherwise you can actually get DMS in this beer. So that's pretty important. But if you just boil without a lid, it's not a problem. But as you can see, there are no bittering hops in this beer. So this beer is 10 IBUs, and you have to add Mosaic hops in your whirlpool to reach 10 IBUs. If you can get a hold of extract, that would be spot on for what Bad Seed Brewing did with their beer. I couldn't get a hold of extract, so I added 50 grams of Mosaic, just a 20-minute hop stand or a whirlpool. And then I just cooled down, and for my brew I added 3470, and that's because I wanted to do the exact same thing that Bad Seed Brewing did, because we have to serve it together at a beer festival in Denmark and talk to people about the difference between home brewing and commercial brewing. So I followed their recipe to the extent that it was possible for me at home. But for this beer, I really recommend Nova Lager, because it's a more clean yeast, because it's actually pretty nutrient poor, this grain bill. And I actually got quite a lot of sulfur compounds from the yeast, which I normally don't. It's not a problem, because they will just blow off eventually. But I had to stress this beer a little bit, because I started brewing this about 20 days before the beer festival, so I was in a hurry. But I still wanted to do everything the way they did it. But I changed the recipe here to make it more homebrew friendly and to hit their flavor better. So for that, 2 packages of Nova Lager. Nova Lager creates way less diacetyl and way less sulfury compounds. And I fermented it at 16 degrees Celsius for 6 days, ramped it up to 20 degrees. Then I dry hopped at 4 degrees and cold crashed from there. And that was probably a mistake, but I really, really wanted to get all the hops out of there after 2 days, So I actually cold crashed during, or dry hop during my cold crash to make sure I could kick the beer after 2 days without any hop, any hop compounds in there. And that was not optimal because in my setup, Bad Seed can rouse with CO2 and get the hops up in suspension again. So they do that for 2 days, just kind of blurb it or burp it. I wasn't able to do that with my setup, so I only used maybe 20% of my dry hop. The rest was just, kind of a waste. So I recommend you to dry hop at 10 degrees Celsius instead, and then condition afterwards for at least 14 days. And if you can dump the yeast, dump it, or otherwise try to do something so you won't dry hop more than 3 days. It's really, really easy for this beer to get astringent or get a hop burn because it's so naked. So, and that's one of the it's a lager, so that's kind of different or kind of difficult to brew to avoid any off flavors. But if you have your fermentation process down, it's not that hard. But the second hardest thing here is to actually get enough hop flavor in there without creating hop burn, because you have nothing to hide the hop burn in. And it won't settle out in this beer. So yeah. So try and follow this recipe, and if you can't, maybe it's not the beer you have to brew. But for the dry hop, I added 200 grams of Mosaic for 2 days. Ounces will be up here somewhere. And then 125 grams of Mosaic Cryo, also for 2 days. So it's a pretty hefty dry hop. I added a little bit less in this version, and I get a citrus note, I get a berry note, kind of a blueberry note, but very subtle. I thought the beer would actually pop from the Mosaic, but it's very subtle. And I haven't tasted Bad Seeds yet, but for my taste, I wanted more hops. So I added more hops in this recipe. Yeah, and I made a water profile here. You have to have enough calcium to actually get the yeast to ferment properly and also to clear the beer. That's pretty important. The rest is pretty balanced. Just double up on the sulfates to chloride, and then you will be pretty golden. Yeah, I guess that was it. Oh yeah, the mash temperature, mash profile is just a single mash, a single step, single infusion, 65 degrees Celsius. That's about, I'll write Fahrenheit up here somewhere. Just for 60 minutes. And I guess that was it. It's a really, really, really simple beer in terms of flavor. It is so naked. It's the most naked beer I've ever tasted, I think. And that's what makes this interesting and challenging for a home brewer, or for any brewer, I think, to get this beer right. I didn't succeed the first time. If I brew it again, and I think I will, because I want this to be as good as Bad Seeds. So yeah, but going for the flavor. Yeah, the one thing that pops up in my mind every time I smell this beer is white wine. A sweet white wine, like a Riesling, if you're familiar with that, the German sweeter kind of white wine. And there's a little citrus in there. So kind of a sweet white wine with a little acidic bite. Yeah, it smells like Smells like summer on the porch, just licking the sun and enjoying life. Yeah, no stress, just fun, vacation, summertime, fun with the kids, fun with friends. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that people that say they don't like beer, they will love this beer because of that white wine feel to it. The flavors, yeah, and as you can see, the color, it's a white wine color. It's so light. This is not clarified in any way, so this is just how it came out of the fermenter. Actually, it's pretty astonishing how almost clear it is, even though it's dry hopped at 14 grams per liter. 12 grams per liter. This one, the recipe say almost 14 grams per liter, but but I used a little less to follow their recipe. But it's actually a beautiful beer, and again, the color reminds you of a white wine. And also the taste, because it's so light, there is no bitterness. So the small amount of sweetness there actually is in this beer, it comes through with a little citrus and that blueberry note, the blueberry feel, or kind of elderflower maybe. So yeah, that also brings me back to white wine. This could be some kind of wild fermented white wine with it could. And as I said before, I tried to dry hop a white wine once, and this is so close to that. That white wine also got a tiny bit of hue in there, a tiny bit of haze. The color is the same. The flavor is almost the same as well. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah. So, and that's really another reason to brew this beer, is to show people that you can brew beers that doesn't really taste like beer. It tastes more like a white wine to me. It finishes dry with, and all that's left is this kind of dry feeling in your mouth with a little citrus. And it's just refreshing, and when it's cold, it's just a real thirst quencher, and just makes you want to drink more. It's a fun beer, it's a good beer, it's a strange beer, it's just a fun beer to brew. So I guess that was it. If you have any questions, you can write to me. Go onto beerstories.dk. Also see all my new tools on the website. Beer converters and CO2 pressure table and stuff like that. Guess that was it. Recipe down in the description. Have a happy brewing out there.